Hey guys, tonight we're diving headfirst into a world far more delicate, perfumed and deceptively shiny than it looks in your favourite Jane Austen adaptation. A world where waistcoats were immaculate, manners were everything, and the smell, well, the smell could knock over a moderately healthy cow. That's right, tonight we're exploring what personal hygiene was really like in Regency England. A time when people looked elegant on the outside, but underneath the lace, silk and polite smiles was an entire biosphere of questionable scents, mysterious cleaning methods and bathing schedules that would make a modern dermatologist weep softly into a bottle of SPF 50. Before we roll up our sleeves, which, historically, may have been hiding 3 weeks of unwashed despair, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if this blend of soothing nighttime storytelling and ridiculous historical chaos is actually your thing. And thank you for suggesting this topic. You always bring the best ideas to the table. Drop a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I know at least a few of you are here at 2 a.m, trying to drift off while contemplating the horrors of 19th century shampoo alternatives. Now dim those lights, switch on a fan for that soft white noise and get comfortable. Maybe even tuck your feet under a blanket so no imaginary Regency-era chamber pot spirits grab your toes. But let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered how often a Regency gentleman actually bathed? Or what a lady used instead of deodorant? Did people really clean their teeth with soot? How did everyone smell at a ballroom after 6 hours of dancing without air conditioning? Did perfume actually help? Or did it just create a new super scent that could stun a sheep at 10 paces? And seriously, how did anyone flirt convincingly while smelling like damp wool rolled in stale lavender? Well, congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1811. You're groggy, slightly cold, wearing a nightshirt that has seen better decades, and you already smell faintly like rosewater and regret. Welcome to Regency England. Let's begin. You open your eyes to a chilly Regency morning, realising immediately that your bedsheets haven't been washed since Napoleon still had hope. Your bedroom smells faintly of damp linen, extinguished candle wax, and whatever your maid attempted to air out last Tuesday. Congratulations, you smell exactly like everyone else. The first thing you notice after the questionable aroma drifting from your pillow is the cold. Not a polite cold, not a brisk, refreshing cold, but a cold that crawls into your bones like it pays rent. The fire went out sometime during the night, leaving behind a sad cluster of ashes that look like they're apologising for giving up. Your breath forms tiny white clouds above you, which is deeply concerning because this is the inside of your home. Your house isn't insulated, it's more of a decorative suggestion of shelter. You shift under layers of blankets that weigh about as much as a medium-sized horse. They're supposed to keep you warm, but mostly they just trap your existing scent in a small, enthusiastic cloud. Your linen nightshirt is stiff from well history, and as you stretch, your joints crack like a footman stepping on old parquet flooring. A new day in Regency England has begun, and already your body is questioning your life choices. Before you even consider standing, you lie still and listen. A Regency household wakes up the way a symphony orchestra warms up, entirely out of tune. Somewhere downstairs, someone is poking embers back into life while another person coughs dramatically enough to imply the world should check on them. A servant walks down the hall with a gait that suggests they've been awake since 4 a.m, probably because they have. Your personal hygiene situation may be mild, but their workload reeks of injustice. Now comes the moment of truth, escaping the bed. You lift the blanket and instantly regret it. The air rushes in, a cold slap from 1811 itself. You wince, pull your arms into the sleeves of your nightshirt and sit up. Your hair, having gone unsupervised for 8 hours, resembles an emotionally distressed sheepdog. You smooth it down with your hand, which does absolutely nothing. Your feet meet the floor with a soft thump, and immediately the chill shoots up your legs like an enthusiastic messenger. Regency floors have one setting, glacier. There are rugs, of course, thin, decorative little things that appear warm but possess all the insulating power of a polite napkin. You take a moment to observe your bedroom. The morning sun attempts to squeeze in through small wavy glass panes that distort the world like a permanent Instagram filter no one asked for. Dust motes dance in the light, giving the place a whimsical glow if you squint and ignore the smell. The furniture is sturdy but slightly judgmental, especially the washstand in the corner. It holds your porcelain basin, the closest thing you have to a shower, which already looks cold enough to ruin your mood. On the chair beside your bed rests the outfit you wore yesterday, and the day before, and possibly the week before that. You pick it up and give it a tentative sniff, immediately deciding that neutral enough is the standard by which you must now live. Eventually you shuffle toward the window, rubbing your arms to warm yourself. Outside, the world is deceptively peaceful. A horse trots by, leaving behind the aroma of what can only be described as agriculturally bold. A milkmaid calls out cheerfully, which is offensive this early in the morning. A neighbour across the street dumps out a chamber pot with the kind of casual confidence that suggests this has never once backfired on her, despite evidence to the contrary. And here you stand, yawning in a nightshirt, smelling faintly unfortunate, hair doing interpretive dance, contemplating the day ahead. This is your morning. This is hygiene, Regency style. No hot shower, no minty toothpaste, no laundry schedule. Just you, your basin, a prayer, and the faint hope that no one gets close enough to notice the complexities of your personal aroma. But don't worry. In this era, everyone else smells just as suspicious as you do. Your morning wash is a porcelain basin filled with water that is either icy enough to kill a trout or tepid enough to erode your will to live. You dab your face and underarms delicately, because anything more would imply effort. And besides, the servants need that water for 10 other things today. You stare down at the bowl, watching the surface ripple as if the water itself is trembling with dread. The porcelain is elegant, hand-painted, and far too nice for what you're about to do with it. In a modern world, this would be the decorative bowl you put fruit in. Here, it is your only barrier between you and total olfactory disaster. You dip your fingers in. The water bites instantly, a crisp reminder that Regency plumbing is just a bucket and a prayer. No matter how gently the maid heated it over the kitchen fire, or, more realistically, forgot to, this water is unforgiving. It clings to your skin with the enthusiasm of a tax collector. You splash your face lightly, wincing as the droplets slide down your cheeks. There is no refreshment here, no moment. This is hygiene by emotional hostage situation. Still you persist, patting your skin with the stoic bravery of someone who knows this is as clean as they're getting today. Next, the underarms. Always a risky maneuver. You lift your arm and lean in carefully, attempting not to inhale. The dab is quick, strategic. You're not trying to clean the area, just confuse it. Discourage it from further rebellion. Convince it to behave socially. Then comes the moment where you stare at the basin again, contemplating whether you should splash other body parts. Absolutely not. This water has to last the entire morning routine. Your maid will use it to scrub your shoes, polish silver, and revive at least one dying houseplant. The bowl has a busier schedule than you do. You pick up your small square of linen, the Regency washcloth. It is rough, thin, and smells faintly like something that was supposed to dry but never fully committed. You give your neck a quick swipe, pretending this removes yesterday's stress, sweat, and at least one mysterious breadcrumb. This whole process isn't meant to make you clean. Cleanliness, in the Regency sense, is more of a concept, like good posture or emotional stability. The basin ritual is meant to freshen you just enough that no one faints when you enter a room. Your goal is to achieve a scent profile best described as present but unremarkable. You lift the basin experimentally. The remaining water sloshes, now containing a constellation of floating lint, tiny hairs, and the crushed ambitions of your skincare routine. You set it down, ignoring it the same way you ignore long-term responsibilities. Now you move to the mirror on your washstand. The reflection is honest, very honest. Regency mirrors have no mercy. Your face glows with the particular pallor of someone who sleeps under 40 pounds of blankets, but still manages to wake up cold. But at least now your cheeks are slightly pink from temperature-induced trauma. That's practically a beauty routine. You smooth your hair with damp fingertips, creating new shapes that defy physics. You try again, achieving something that could pass as intentional if no one looks directly at it. Perfect. For a final flourish, you dip one finger back into the basin and pat down any renegade hairs. The water is even colder now. It stings, but it works. Congratulations, you look awake, alert, and only mildly concerned about your mortality. You straighten your nightshirt and take a slow breath. Your face is damp, your neck is cooler than morally acceptable. Your armpits are confused but cooperative. The morning wash is complete. You have not bathed, you have not truly cleaned, but by Regency standards you are now acceptable. A functional human, a presentable member of society, and in this era, that's all anyone can reasonably ask for. Your hair routine consists of brushing, oiling, brushing again, and praying that no one notices you haven't actually shampooed since the last comet sighting. Powder hides sins. So does wearing your hair up. Hygiene, optional. Vibes, immaculate. You begin by picking up your hairbrush, the single most overworked object in Regency England. Its bristles are made from boar hair, which feels exactly like brushing your scalp with an aggressively unfriendly hedgehog. Still, you drag it through your hair with a determined sigh of someone trying to fix a structural problem with decorative solutions. The first few strokes are fine, gentle, even soothing. But then the tangles appear. Fearsome knots with the tenacity of ship rope and the personality of a tax auditor. You work through them carefully, trying not to wince audibly in case a servant walks past and assumes you're being attacked by a large bird. Your hair is spreading. That's the best way to describe it. The more you brush, the larger it becomes. You're slowly transforming into a polite Regency-themed dandelion. This is expected. The era practically demanded volume. Not the glamorous kind, but the kind of volume that happens when your hair hasn't seen shampoo, steam or mercy since Michaelmas. Now comes the oiling stage. You reach for a small ceramic bottle containing a mixture that smells faintly floral and aggressively historical. A few drops onto your palms, rub together, and suddenly you're moisturising like a Victorian apothecary who's just been told essential oils will solve everything. You smooth the oil through your hair, taming the fluff just enough that it no longer poses a fire hazard near candles. At the same time, the oil ensures your hair now reflects light in a way both elegant and mildly concerning. If you tilted your head just right, you could signal ships, but you're not done. Regency expectations demand structure. You must now brush the oiled hair again, sculpting it into something that suggests intention rather than survival. You lift sections, twist them, pat them, and whisper a small personal prayer that it holds. Next comes the powder, the Regency equivalent of dry shampoo, if dry shampoo were significantly less effective and far more dramatic. The fine, pale dust puffs into the air like a tiny ghost every time you tap the container. It settles on your hair, your shoulders, your floor, and any passing maid unfortunate enough to enter during the process. The scent is pleasant enough, but now you look like someone who fell headfirst into a bakery. Still, powdered hair is fashionable, respectable, and most importantly strategic. It covers the shine of day 3 hair, day 7 hair, and the don't ask stage that follows. You gather your hair up into an updo, the classic Regency style designed to hide chaos behind elegance. Too many pins loosen. Your hair will too many pins loosen. Your hair will cascade down like a slow-moving avalanche of social embarrassment. Once everything is pinned, powdered, brushed, and polished, you admire your reflection. You look like someone who has their life together, or at least someone who has servants. Your hair sits neatly atop your head, curled and smoothed into shapes that imply delicate restraint rather than desperate improvisation. What no one must know, not your neighbours, not your suitors, not even the family dog, is that beneath this cloud-like confection lies hair that has not truly been washed in far longer than you're comfortable quantifying. Because washing it would require hours of preparation, gallons of warm water, and the emotional resilience of a lighthouse keeper. You add one final touch, a ribbon, a small flourish that says, "This was intentional, even if you and your hairbrush know the truth." You step away from your mirror feeling oddly triumphant. Despite the lack of shampoo, the lack of hot water, the lack of anything resembling a reasonable grooming routine, you have achieved Regency hair excellence. Softly scented, slightly powdered, structurally sound. A sad cloud, yes, but a proud one. You pick up a tiny pot of gritty tooth powder made of chalk, charcoal, or ground bones. Delicious. Brushing feels like dragging sandpaper across your gums, but hey, your teeth now smell faintly of mint and danger. The pot itself is adorable, porcelain, hand-painted, probably worth more than the actual powder inside. You open the lid and stare down at a substance that looks like someone swept up the remains of a pottery workshop and thought, yes, dental care. The texture is ominous. It clumps like damp sand and sparkles faintly in a way that would concern any modern dentist. But this is Regency England. The science of oral hygiene has the energy of a well-meaning toddler with access to a chemistry set. This powder is considered cutting-edge, revolutionary, the height of tooth-related innovation. People talk about it the way we talk about whitening strips, hopeful, slightly delusional, and ready to ignore side effects. You dip your brush, a stiff little creation that feels as though it's personally angry at you, into the powder. Too little, and nothing happens. Too much, and you risk brushing away the entire front of your smile. Balance is key. The first scrub is instant regret. The powder scrapes across your teeth with the force of a small landslide. Your gums tingle, then scream, then resign themselves to their fate. Each stroke produces a gritty crunch, like you're chewing a chalkboard out of spite. You pause for a moment, wondering whether this process genuinely improves anything, or if this is simply the Regency version of character building. Still, you persevere. The minty herbs attempt to provide some comfort, but the underlying flavour is unmistakable. Mineral catastrophe. Yet somehow your breath now smells fresher, like a tiny apothecary shop has taken up residence inside your mouth. You turn to the mirror and examine the results. Your teeth look slightly brighter, which is impressive considering the abrasive nature of everything you just put them through. In truth, Regency dental beauty standards are wonderfully flexible. If you have most of your teeth arranged in something that resembles a functional pattern, you're already marriage material. The powder has settled in unexpected places. Your tongue feels like it's wearing a thin coat of limestone. Your lips taste faintly of bone. You wipe your mouth with a cloth, which now looks as though it moonlights as a geological survey tool. But the ritual isn't over. Dental wellness in this era is not a one-step process. It is a lifestyle choice born out of fear. Somewhere in the back of your mind lurks the terror of the dreaded alternative, the barber surgeon. A man who cuts hair, drains blood, extracts teeth, and absolutely does not wash his hands in between. So you brush again, gently this time, hoping to avoid scraping off anything essential like enamel, dignity, or structural integrity. Once finished, you tap out the brush, sending tiny mineral puffs into the air. They sparkle briefly in the sunlight before settling onto the washstand, where future archaeologists will definitely misinterpret them. You close the pot with a satisfying click, as if sealing away something dangerous, which honestly, you are. Then you stand there for a moment, feeling oddly proud. Against all odds and all evidence, you have practiced dental hygiene. Extreme dental hygiene. Regency dental hygiene. You have scrubbed your mouth with a substance that could be used to polish cannonballs. And yet you feel refreshed, alive, mint-adjacent. You roll your jaw once, testing for loose teeth. They remain mostly attached. A victory. Most importantly, your breath now smells pleasantly herbal, which is ideal because the rest of you currently smells like unwashed linen and determination. In Regency England, this counts as balance. You straighten your posture, smile faintly at the mirror, and pretend not to notice the thin line of tooth powder still clinging to your left nostril. Congratulations! You have survived the morning dental routine, and with your mouth now feeling both polished and vaguely assaulted, you're officially ready to greet the day. There is no stick deodorant. There is only hope, linen, lemon slices, vinegar rubs, and perfume applied in heroic amounts. Everyone around you smells like a bakery fought a garden and lost. You begin the daily ritual of managing your personal scent, not eliminating it, because that word does not exist in Regency vocabulary, but gently nudging it toward acceptability. You lift your arm, inhale cautiously, and confirm what you already knew. Your armpit has entered its historical reenactment phase. It smells like a loaf of bread that took a wrong turn. Your maid hands you a small dish of sliced lemon. These, allegedly, will freshen you. You rub one slice under each arm, feeling the juice sting your skin in a way that suggests your body is filing a complaint. For a brief moment, you smell pleasantly citrusy. Then you smell like warm citrus. Then you smell like warm citrus that has concerns about its future. Next comes the vinegar. This is the nuclear option of Regency deodorizing, a tactic deployed when lemons alone cannot defeat the forces gathering beneath your sleeves. You dab the vinegar delicately along your underarms and neck, trying not to flinch. It burns, it tingles, it smells like you're marinating for dinner. But somehow, this is considered refreshing. You stand still, arms slightly lifted, waiting for the vinegar to evaporate enough that you no longer feel like a salad. Your maid fans you with a piece of folded paper, an act of service that feels both compassionate and deeply humiliating. "Just a moment, madam," she says, as if waiting for your armpits to stop sizzling is perfectly normal. And then the final step. Perfume. Regency, perfume is not subtle. It is not something you miss lightly on your wrists. It is a full contact sport. You dab some on your neck, your hair, your clothes, and depending on your confidence level, your moral compass. Rosewater, violet essence, ambergris if you're wealthy and brave enough to smell faintly whale-related, with a sinking sense of inevitability, that within an hour it will begin to mix with your body heat, your natural odour, and the lingering vinegar in ways no perfumer ever intended. This is the Regency scent profile. Layer 1, rose petals. Layer 2, panic. Layer 3, warm, human reality. You're not alone. Everyone in your household is doing the same thing. The entire building smells like a flower shop that also sells bread and sometimes pickles. Servants hurry to and from their chores trailing lavender water. Your father smells like musk and despair. Your mother smells like violets wrestling regret. Even outside, the world is a scented battlefield. Walk down the street and you pass coachmen drenched in sweat and cologne, ladies wafting powder and desperation, and gentlemen who have decided one lemon slice is enough deodorizing for the entire season. Spoiler, it isn't. You also must consider your clothing, specifically the multiple layers now pressed firmly against your freshly lemon-vinegared underarms. Linen shifts absorb everything like emotional sponges. Whatever you smell like now, the fabric will lovingly preserve for future generations. Archaeologists will one day find these garments and conclude that Regency people lived exclusively inside bakeries. You take a deep breath, as deep as is safe, and examine yourself in the mirror. You look fresh. You smell complicated. You are ready. Is this deodorant? No. Is this survival? Absolutely. You step toward the door, hoping the perfume cloud follows you like a protective halo, shielding innocent bystanders from the truth. Because in Regency England, smelling neutral is the dream, smelling acceptable is the victory, and smelling merely confusing is the best anyone can realistically hope for. Bathing requires heating gallons of water, hauling a giant tub into a room, and setting aside 3 hours of emotional stamina. You only do this on holidays, medical emergencies, or when society absolutely forces your hand. You know it's bathing day because the household is already in chaos. Servants rush past your door carrying buckets, like they're evacuating flood water rather than delivering it. Someone downstairs is shouting about firewood. Someone else is arguing with the copper kettle. The entire house trembles with the emotional weight of what's coming. You sit at your vanity, mentally preparing. Bathing is not something you simply do. It is something you survive. First, the tub. A large metal beast that looks like it belongs on a battlefield rather than inside a bedroom. It's hauled in by 2 maids and 1 manservant, all of whom sigh in a way that suggests your hygiene is a personal inconvenience to them. The tub lands in the middle of the room with a heavy clang, loud enough to wake the ancestors. Then comes the water. Bucket after bucket after bucket, sloshing and splashing onto the metal like an angry waterfall. The water is technically warm if you consider lukewarm tea left on a windowsill to be warm. By the time the final bucket arrives, the first one is already cold. This is the eternal paradox of Regency bathing. The more water you add, the less warm it becomes. You stare at the tub. It stares back. Removing your clothing is the next emotional hurdle. You begin to undress with the solemnity of a priest preparing for a ritual. Every layer removed brings you closer to the cold, metallic reality of the bath. Your chemise clings nervously to you, as if asking to stay on just this once. Finally, you take a deep breath and step in. The water is a liar. It promised warmth, but delivers betrayal. A shriek escapes your throat, not loud but sharp, the kind of sound a teapot makes right before boiling. Your toes curl. Your soul leaves your body temporarily. You lower yourself slowly, inch by tortured inch, until you're seated like a regal, shivering frog. The tub is too large for your comfort, but too small to be dignified. No one looks elegant in a Regency bath. You simply do your best not to look concerned. Once the shock passes, you begin the washing process, a strategic operation involving a bar of soft soap, a sponge that feels vaguely resentful, and water that cools faster than your enthusiasm. You wash your hair, a decision you instantly regret. Wet hair is heavy. Wet Regency hair is catastrophic. The dripping locks cling to you like seaweed, and the water becomes a murky brew of powder, oil, and lost hope. You scrub your arms, your neck, your legs. You attempt your back, but quickly realize human anatomy is not designed for such ambition. This is fine. You tell yourself you've done enough. Just as you begin to feel slightly cleaner, slightly victorious, the water turns from lukewarm to mountain stream in February. You shiver so violently the tub echoes like a kicked cauldron. Now you must exit the bath. Getting in was emotional. Getting out is acrobatic. You grip the rim, wobble like a newborn deer, and rise from the water with the grace of a distressed statue. The air hits your skin like winter slapping you across the face. Your maid rushes forward with towels, thin towels, towels whose only purpose is to disappoint. You wrap yourself tightly and shuffle toward the fireplace where embers glow as apologetically as embers can. As you dry off, you reflect. Are you cleaner? Yes. Are you warmer? No. Are you emotionally stable? Absolutely not. But you have done it. You have completed bathing day. You will not do this again until a seasonal holiday, a physician's demand, or a powerful social shame compels you. And that is the Regency way. Some Regency physicians insisted cold baths cured everything from melancholy to gout. You lower yourself into a tub of freezing water and immediately reconsider every life choice that led to this moment. It all begins with your doctor, an earnest man with impressive sideburns and absolutely no grasp of human comfort, leaning over you and declaring, "A cold bath will restore your humours." You nod politely, even though you have no idea what your humours are, why they left, or why freezing water is the recommended method for retrieving them. The servants prepare the tub with the solemnity of a funeral procession. Unlike the warm bath, this one requires no kettle, no firewood, no endless buckets of steaming water. No, this ritual is far more sinister. A few buckets straight from the pump, crisp enough to preserve fish, are poured into the metal tub. The water glistens with icy malevolence. You stare at it for a long time. Too long. Long enough that your maid politely asks if you intend to bathe today, or simply study the water until you die of old age. And so you begin. Your foot touches the surface first, and instantly your soul attempts to flee your body. The shock is so intense that you yank your foot back, staring at it as if it betrayed you in a previous life. But you are determined, or stubborn, or easily manipulated by Regency medical fads. Hard to say. You try again. One foot in, then the other, and then, with the agonizing slowness of someone willingly stepping into a nightmare, you lower yourself. The water envelops your legs, your hips, your torso, and suddenly you are having a spiritual experience. Not a pleasant one. The kind of spiritual experience where your ancestors gather around and whisper, "What on earth are you doing?" You gasp loudly enough that a servant outside the door pauses mid-step. Steam does not rise from the water. Instead, you produce the only visible vapours in the room as your breath fogs the cold morning air. The tub feels like the embodiment of regret. You grip the edges with both hands, knuckles whitening. Your doctor claims this process stimulates the constitution. In reality, it stimulates nothing except your desire to run away and assume a new identity. But you endure, because England has entered a phase where fashionable misery is considered a health trend. Aristocrats swear by morning cold plunges. Gentlemen dunk themselves before breakfast. Ladies immerse themselves to treat sorrow, nerves, general feelings of being alive. Society praises this as bravery. You silently categorize it as madness. After a few minutes, which feel like several lifetimes, you attempt to wash. The tiny trickle of soap that slides across your skin hardens instantly, as if deciding it too is done with this experience. Your limbs feel heavy, numb, and oddly buoyant, like you're becoming a ghost, but only from the waist down. When the doctor promised the bath would strengthen your spirit, you assumed he meant metaphorically. Now you suspect he meant it literally, as your spirit attempts to exit your body and walk to the nearest warm fireplace. Eventually you cannot take it anymore. Warm by comparison. A sad commentary on warm by comparison. A sad commentary on both your home's insulation and the horror of the bath. You climb out shivering violently, each tremor rattling through your bones like a musical instrument tuned to fear. Your maid rushes forward with blankets, layering you like an overfilled pastry. You wrap yourself tightly and sit by the fire, which instantly begins negotiating with your body temperature. Slowly, painfully, sensation returns to your fingers, your toes, and finally your brain. You take a breath. You have done it. You have completed the cold bath. Do you feel cured? No. Do you feel invigorated? Also no. Do you feel strangely proud of yourself? Yes. A little. Your doctor will be thrilled. Your humours, whoever they are, will allegedly realign. And you'll avoid making direct eye contact with a bathtub for the next 6 months. But congratulations, you have participated in Regency wellness, and you have survived. Your clothes smell like memory. Old memory. Washing a gown or coat is so time-consuming and dangerous to the fabric that you simply don't. Instead, you cleanse garments with brushing, beating, and wishful thinking. You look down at the dress draped across your chair, your faithful companion for the past several days, possibly weeks, depending on how honest you feel. Its once bright colour has faded into a soft, muted hue, the kind that screams, "I've lived things." The fabric carries the scent of travel, fireplaces, perfume, weather, and emotional turbulence. In Regency England, this is called patina. In modern times, it would be called "please wash this." But washing is not part of your life. Washing is a last resort. Washing is the nuclear option. To wash a garment properly, you would need a wash tub, gallons of water hauled by a servant with impressive biceps, soap strong enough to strip the paint off a door, and the emotional readiness to watch your fabric weaken by the second. Regency fabric is delicate. Thread loosens, colours bleed, stitches protest. A single enthusiastic scrub could turn your favourite gown into a tragic cautionary tale. So instead, you do what everyone does. You maintain illusions. The brush is your first tool. Stiff bristles attached to a wooden handle, capable of removing dust, dirt, and the occasional crumb of something you ate last Tuesday. You hang your gown in the morning light and brush it as though you're grooming a horse. Long, confident strokes, a little flick at the hem. You pause to admire your work, pretending brushing actually counts as cleaning. Spoiler, it absolutely does not. Next comes beating. The garment is laid across a table or hung from a line, and then, much like releasing the frustrations of daily life, you smack it repeatedly with a rug beater or paddle. Clouds of dust erupt dramatically, filling the room like a theatrical fog machine set to Regency realism. You cough daintily, wave your hand, and continue beating, hoping your neighbours aren't watching you assault your clothing with the intensity of someone settling old debts. After brushing and beating comes the most important step, airing. You hang your garments outside for several hours or days, or until nature decides to return them. Fresh air was considered a cleanser, an invisible laundress with no union demands and no bucket requirements. You hope the breeze carries away the staleness of life and doesn't simply add a new scent, like smoke from the neighbour's fire or the aroma of livestock drifting apologetically from the next field. For stains, there are home remedies, a dab of vinegar here, a sprinkle of salt there, maybe some stale bread pressed against the fabric like it's absorbing bad decisions. You've watched your maid attempt these rituals, whispering softly as though coaxing the stain into leaving voluntarily. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it makes the stain worse. Sometimes it creates a new stain, which you simply declare a design feature and move on. Undergarments, thankfully, are washed more often. Linen shifts and shirts are boiled, scrubbed, wrung out, and hung to dry in the sun until they flap in the breeze like ghostly reminders of your hygiene limits. But outer garments, your gowns, your coats, your fashionable shawls, those endure your life right alongside you. They absorb your adventures, your sweat, your anxieties, and your questionable decisions. They are your textile companions, and so, when you finally put your gown back on after brushing and beating and airing and gently lying to yourself, you inhale. Does it smell clean? No. Does it smell neutral? Also, no. Does it smell less concerning than before? Maybe, and that's enough. In the Regency world, laundry is not an act of cleanliness. It is an act of diplomacy between fabric, time, and your own tolerance for mild unpleasantness. You smooth the wrinkles, adjust the sleeves, and step forward confidently. Because in this era, laundry isn't about looking clean. It's about looking like you tried. You wear a chemise or shirt under everything to absorb the juices. This garment gets washed far more often than anything else, which means about once a week if you're thriving and once a month if you're normal. Your chemise is the quiet hero of your wardrobe. It asks for nothing. It gives everything. It protects your body from itchy fabrics, your nicer clothes from your mortal humanity, and your reputation from certain social ruin. Without it, your gown would cling to sweat, skin, and the general emotional humidity of Regency life. With it, your gown can pretend you're a fresh, fragrant member of polite society. A lie, yes, but an important one. You slip the chemise over your head, feeling the familiar cool linen settle against your skin. It's soft from wear, thin in some places, and slightly discoloured in ways you've agreed not to think too deeply about. You tug it into place, smoothing the fabric down and pretending you don't notice the faint aroma of well-experience. Washing a chemise is simpler than laundering a gown, but simpler is a relative term. It still requires heating water, scrubbing vigorously, and praying the fabric doesn't disintegrate from the combination of soap, friction, and the weight of your personal sins. And even then, you absolutely cannot wash it every day. You wear this thing repeatedly until it begins whispering, "Please let me go." A weekly wash is for the wealthy, the organised, the people with strong household staffs and even stronger immune systems. A monthly wash is for everyone else, the normal folk who accept that life is short and linen is durable. But despite its questionable schedule, the chemise functions beautifully. It is the Regency version of a protective phone case, invisible beneath the surface, absorbing all the damage while the outer shell remains pristine. Your chemise collects sweat, soap residue, perfume oils, crumbs, stray hair powder, and at least 3 emotions. It is the diary your body keeps without your consent. Throughout the day, it shifts and rustles beneath your outfit, quietly regulating your temperature and politely pretending not to notice anything happening nearby. If only modern undergarments were so diplomatic. Your chemise also doubles as pyjamas, because of course it does. You wear it beneath your day clothes, then sleep in it at night, then put it back under your next outfit. At this point, it has seen more sunrises than the household staff. When you finally remove it for washing, it lets out a sigh of relief that only the spiritually attuned can hear. And let's talk about the washing itself. Your maid boils water in a copper pot, pours it into a wooden tub, and adds soap flakes that smell like a mixture of lard and determination. She scrubs the chemise against a washboard until the linen froths with suds and secrets. Then she rinses it, wrings it, and hangs it to dry in the courtyard, where it flaps in the breeze like a flag signalling your attempt at hygiene. Once dry, it returns to you crisp, stiff, and faintly scented of sunshine and hard labour. You hold it up to the light, admiring the spots where the linen is now thin enough to reveal mysteries. You fold it, place it gently in a drawer and think, I will treat you better this time, you won't. But it's sweet that you tried. Most importantly, the chemise guards your expensive garments from ruin. Without it, your silk gown would need washing far more often, and washing silk is like washing a butterfly wing. Possible, but only if you hate the butterfly. So, with your freshest chemise on, you add the next layers, corset, petticoats, gown. each one relying on that simple linen garment to handle all the unglamorous details. And as you finally dress for the day, you send a quiet nod of appreciation to the chemise, the unsung, unwashed hero of Regency Hygiene, working overtime so your outer layers can pretend everything is fine. A dab of violet water behind the ears, a spritz of rose attar, a full body misting when attending a ball so your natural musk doesn't duel the gentleman standing beside you. Perfume isn't luxury, it's survival. In Regency England, perfume is less an accessory and more a tactical necessity. A shield, a fragrant barrier between you and the atmospheric reality of an age without running water. You reach for your perfume bottles like a knight reaching for armour, except your armour smells like flowers, alcohol and quiet desperation. The bottles themselves are works of art, glass etched with delicate patterns, corked with care and filled with liquids that look like liquefied gemstones. You lift one to the light and admire the pale lavender hue. Beautiful, deceptive, potent enough to mask the fact that you haven't truly bathed since a distant monarch still sat comfortably on the throne. You begin with the essentials, a dab behind each ear. This is the Regency equivalent of saying, "Good morning, world. Please don't flinch." The violet water cools your skin and immediately overpowers the mild but present scent of linen that has seen things. Next comes the rose attar, rich, heavy, and expensive. It clings to your pulse points like a determined suitor, refusing to let go. A single drop can scent an entire room. 2 drops can scent an entire household. 3 drops can start a neighbourhood discussion. You rub it gently onto your wrists, then touch your neck. Now you smell like a bouquet, experiencing an emotional crisis. But the true challenge is events, balls, dinners, afternoon teas in poorly ventilated rooms where 20 guests and 4 fireplaces collaborate to create a humidity never before documented in nature. In these scenarios, perfume is no longer adornment, it is self-defense. You take your largest perfume bottle, a decorative monstrosity with a spritzing mechanism that promises both elegance and chemical warfare, and apply a generous mist. It settles on your hair, your gown, and any innocent item of furniture standing too close. Your personal scent profile now has layers, floral at the top, citrus somewhere in the middle, and a deep bass note of "please, don't smell me too closely." Perfume in the Regency period does not freshen you, it distracts. It says, "Look over here, smell this rose garden. Don't think too hard about the rest." Even men join in. Gentlemen splash cologne onto their cravats, coats, and sometimes their boots, because the roads are muddy, and hygiene is theoretical. Some men wear citrus colognes, bright and sharp. Others favour musky blends strong enough to render a fainting couch necessary. But everyone understands the stakes. Perfume rises to meet the moment. Perfume intervenes. Perfume whispers, "Shh, no one has to know." Your maid brings you another vial. Ambergris, the most controversial and expensive fragrance of the era. It smells like sweet earth mixed with warm animal mystery. You hesitate, then decide you're absolutely using it today. You dab it lightly, hoping it makes you smell luxurious rather than confusing. Throughout the day, you conduct scent maintenance, a dab here, a touch up there, a quiet prayer that your combinational bouquet doesn't ferment into something tragic. Regency air is thick, and perfume evolves over time. What began as fresh lavender may, by afternoon, smell like lavender that has been through something. And yet perfume works. It creates an illusion not just of cleanliness, but of refinement, of intentionality, of effort. No one needs to know that beneath your empire waist gown lies a chemise washed last Tuesday, and an armpit that recently met vinegar. Perfume tells a different story, one of elegance, mystery, and floral misdirection. As you prepare to leave the house, you glance in the mirror. You look composed, glowing. You smell complex, but pleasant, an herb garden with ambition. You exhale slowly. The scent cloud moves with you, your invisible guardian. In a world without deodorant, daily baths, or breathable fabrics, perfume is more than fragrance. It is hope in liquid form. Your breath is a potent cocktail of tea, onions, mutton fat, and 19th century dental theory. Everyone smells like this. Romance novels do not mention this for good reason. Breakfast begins innocently enough. A cup of tea, a slice of bread, perhaps a bit of cheese that has already declared emotional independence from the dairy that birthed it. You sip delicately, imagining yourself refined and genteel, and yet every swallow deepens the particular aromatic blend that your mouth is already curating with the enthusiasm of an amateur perfumer who has read absolutely no instructions. Tea in Regency England isn't the delicate floral brew you're imagining. It's strong, dark, and brewed long enough to qualify as a weapon. It coats your mouth in tannins that cling to your tongue like a clingy relative who refuses to leave after Christmas. Add a spoonful of sugar, and now your teeth feel sticky, as though preparing for their starring role in a dental tragedy. Then there are the onions. Onions are everywhere. They sneak into broths, sauces, pies, and the emotional atmosphere. These onions are not the mild, store-bought variety of today. They're robust, spicy little bombs that leave their signature on every breath you exhale for the next 7 hours. If you whisper a secret, the onions whisper it too. Next comes the mutton fat, a favourite ingredient of the era. Mutton is the reliable friend who always shows up late and has a strange smell you politely never mention. It appears in breakfasts, lunches, suppers, and midnight snacks. Once consumed, it leaves a warm, lingering film on the palate that no amount of tooth powder can fully evict. If you inhale through your mouth, you can practically taste the sheep's autobiography. Lunch doesn't help. The dishes are hearty, flavourful, and deeply committed to ensuring you remain aromatic for the remainder of the day. Stews simmered for hours, roasted meat seasoned liberally with herbs, cabbage that seems determined to leave a legacy. Every bite contributes to the internal scent profile that romance novels conveniently skip. The vegetables contribute too. Carrots, leeks, and parsnips bring earthy undertones. Cabbages add personality. And every so often, a pickled item appears and politely ruins your next 3 conversations. By mid-afternoon, your breath has matured into something complex and layered, like an artisanal cheese or a fine wine, except significantly less appealing. Tea returns for another round, amplifying everything through heat, steam, and sheer determination. Now imagine an entire ballroom full of people with this exact diet. You've gathered in a grand hall, lit by thousands of beeswax candles whose warm glow does nothing to improve the smell. You waltz with a gentleman whose breath suggests he's recently eaten a meal cooked entirely over an open flame, and yet no one says a word. The unspoken, and yet no one says a word. The unspoken rule of Regency England. Everyone smells, therefore no one smells worse than anyone else. The playing field is blessedly level. Even the upper classes with access to finer foods still contend with animal fats, heavily spiced dishes, and a complete lack of dental hygiene knowledge. Sweetened almonds offer temporary relief, but only temporarily, after which your breath becomes almond-scented distress. Chronic halitosis becomes part of daily life. Courting couples simply angle their faces strategically when speaking. Ladies flutter fans not just for flirtation, but for self-preservation. Gentlemen stand at polite distances to avoid direct aromatic combat. And still, romance persists, because in the Regency world you fall in love with a person's eyes, manners, wit, and you politely ignore the flavour of whatever they last ate drifting gently between you. As evening falls, you drink more tea, ensuring the cycle will continue tomorrow. You brush your teeth with something abrasive enough to polish silver, hoping to cut through the mutton fog. It doesn't. But you smile anyway, because everyone is in the same fragrant boat, and in a strange, comforting way that makes it all feel rather lovely. Every bedroom contains a chamber pot, and let's just say the vibes are atmospheric. You open the lid and instantly learn why no one writes odes to the smells of Regency dawn. The chamber pot is the great equalizer of the era. No matter how wealthy, refined, or elegantly perfumed you may be, you still rely on a large ceramic bowl tucked under your bed like a shameful little secret. In the dark hours of the night, it serves its purpose well. In the morning, however, it becomes a weapon. You lift the lid, hoping, praying for a neutral scent. You're disappointed, very disappointed. The aroma rises like a ghost with unfinished business, floating toward your face with a confidence you can only admire from a distance. It is sharp, it is bold, it is assertive. It announces itself, it introduces itself, it lingers. This is your daily Regency alarm clock. The pot itself is deceptively lovely. Painted flowers curl around the rim, delicate vines twine down the sides, tiny gold accents shimmer in the light, aesthetic deception at its finest. The beauty outside gives no hint of the horrors within. You carefully slide the pot away from your bed, feeling like someone handling a cursed artifact. The contents slosh ominously. You take a step back, not out of fear, but out of respect. This pot has lived things. Next comes the delicate process of preparing yourself for the day, while trying to pretend the pot doesn't exist. The morning smells of horse manure, damp earth, chimney smoke, and whatever the neighbour dumped onto the street earlier. You close the window, the pot remains undefeated. Eventually a housemaid will come to collect it, a task that ranks somewhere between heroic and soul-crushing. She enters silently, takes the pot with practised hands, and carries it away with the stoic determination of someone transporting a diplomatic scandal. You avert your eyes, partly to be polite and partly because direct eye contact during chamber pot retrieval feels too intimate. But before she arrives, you have an uncomfortable amount of time alone with the pot and your thoughts. You reflect on how every bedroom in every respectable household contains one. Your parents sleep with one, your siblings sleep with one. Even the guest room where your cousin stayed last summer has one, which means every person you have ever spoken to or admired has performed this exact ancient ritual. Emily Dickinson once said the soul selects its own society. She did not, however, address its chamber pots. You try covering the pot with lavender sachets. The lavender loses. You try moving your scented fan past it. The scent curls around the pot and flees in the opposite direction. Even your strongest perfume, your beloved rose attar, simply joins forces with the aroma to create a powerful new hybrid scent. Romantic terror. And yet the chamber pot is unavoidable, necessary even. Nighttime strolls to outdoor privies are not for the faint of heart. The yard is dark, the ground is cold, the wind is unkind. So the pot stays, your reliable nocturnal companion, helping you avoid hypothermia in exchange for some mild psychological damage. Once the maid finally removes it, the entire room feels lighter. Hope returns. Flowers smell like flowers again. You can breathe without fear of inhaling your own regrets. Still, the memory lingers. You know the pot will return tonight, waiting, watching, absorbing. And tomorrow morning, when you lift the lid again, the Regency dawn will greet you with its unique atmospheric charm. Because in this era, chamber pots aren't a burden. They're a lifestyle. You attend a rare visit to a public bathhouse where everyone sits in mildly warm water, pretending they aren't silently judging each other's ankles. It's humid, crowded, and the water hasn't been changed in 12 guests. The moment you walk in, the air hits you, thick, steamy, and infused with a scent of damp humanity. Not unpleasant, exactly, but definitely specific. It smells like soap that's given up, wet wool, and the faint emotional trauma of everyone who has bathed here before you. Droplets of condensation cling to the windows, making the place feel like a greenhouse dedicated exclusively to growing soggy aristocrats. The bathhouse keeper, a man who looks permanently overboiled, hands you a small towel that is damp in a way that suggests it has not been dry since the previous century. You smile politely, pretending not to notice. You're led to a row of cubbies where you place your clothes, each fold of fabric absorbing one additional note of moisture from the air. Then comes the bath itself. You lower yourself into the communal tub, which is less a tub and more a wide wooden vat deep enough to drown your dignity. The water is warmish, hovering somewhere between refreshing and regrettable soup. As your skin makes contact, you cannot help but wonder how many people before you have contributed to the current broth. The number is not comforting. Around you sit other bathers, spaced out awkwardly like vegetables floating in a stew. No one meets each other's eyes for too long. Eye contact implies intimacy, or worse, interest. Instead, everyone stares at the walls, the ceiling, their own toes, anywhere but at the stranger sitting 3 inches away from them in a giant communal teacup. The conversations that do happen occur in hushed whispers. That one's ankles look strong, someone murmurs, an observation delivered with the seriousness of a political commentary. I heard Lady Harcourt wears stockings to sleep. Another whispers, as though this is radical and not simply comfortable. You sit quietly, trying to relax, arms placed just so on the rim of the tub, adopting the expression of someone who bathes communally by choice and not by social obligation. Steam curls around your face, threatening your carefully arranged hairstyle, which is now drooping like a depressed pastry. A servant approaches with a small ladle of water and pours it over your shoulders. It is warmer than the bath itself, shocking in a pleasant way. You thank him, he nods. It is the most profound emotional exchange you've had all week. The bathhouse experience is meant to be rejuvenating, an oasis of warmth and community. And yet, every now and then, a bather shifts in the water and sends a wave across the tub that touches your arm, and you briefly forget how to breathe. You remind yourself that, historically, this is common, normal, expected. Regency bathing culture views communal water the way modern people view coffee shops, a place to gather, to chat, to decompress, to exchange the latest gossip while slowly dissolving into lukewarm liquid. Still, you cannot help but notice the floating particles, little bits of lint, a rebellious curl of hair, something ambiguous that you decide very intentionally not to identify. Now and then, a bather stands to exit the tub and the water level drops dramatically. Passengers move on a freed-up carriage, passengers move on a freed-up carriage seat. After what feels simultaneously like 20 minutes and 7 hours, you decide you are sufficiently clean in the Regency sense, meaning you now smell less like yourself and more like whoever sat in the tub before you. You rise from the water, wrap the damp towel around your shoulders, and shuffle toward the changing area, feeling like a warm raisin. Outside, the cool air greets you with a crisp slap. You inhale deeply. You smell faintly of lavender, humidity, and shared experience. Oddly, it's not terrible. Strange, yes. Slightly alarming, absolutely. But not terrible. You glance back once more at the bathhouse, where steam curls upward and strangers continue floating awkwardly in the Regency jacuzzi. And you think, maybe this wasn't so bad. Maybe. Some trendsetters believe standing naked in fresh air improves health. You give it a try and realise the freshness includes horse droppings and chimney smoke. This particular wellness fad begins innocently enough. A fashionable cousin or eccentric neighbour announces that the latest in health science, meaning something a doctor once muttered while half asleep, is to expose one's entire body to the healing powers of nature. Air, they insist, is medicinal, restorative, purifying. The body must breathe. You're skeptical. But you're also Regency polite, which is a dangerous combination. Before you know it, you're standing near your bedroom window, fully undressed, contemplating the meaning of life and the temperature of your surroundings. You open the window. A gust of cold morning air rushes in, slapping your bare skin with the enthusiasm of an offended goose. Immediately your paws tighten, your toes curl. Your soul briefly exits your body and considers a career change. But you stay. After all, this is a wellness ritual. Health requires sacrifice, and possibly a warm cloak nearby. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with what is supposedly fresh air. Instead, you inhale the unmistakable scent of horse droppings from the street below. One more breath brings in chimney smoke, the smoky perfume of last night's roast dinner lingering in the neighbour's flue, and the faint aroma of damp paving stones. You cough delicately. This is fine. This is normal. This is self-care. Apparently, the air bath enthusiast promise that regular exposure will toughen your constitution, brighten your spirit and cure vague ailments like melancholy, sluggishness, and general dampness of soul. Standing naked next to an open window in March appears to be the preferred method. You hold your arms out, trying to let the breeze flow around you gracefully. What actually happens is that a draft rushes directly toward your armpits, arguably the least dignified part of the human body, and sends a shiver ricocheting through your spine. Some people recommend walking slowly around the room during an air bath. Let the air settle evenly upon your limbs, they say. You attempt this, and instantly feel like a confused pigeon trying to locate a breadcrumb. You pace, you freeze, you consider putting socks on but decide that might compromise the ritual. You regret everything. Still, you persist. You remind yourself that Regency households are not designed for this sort of activity. The windows are drafty. The walls are thin. There is always the possibility of a passing servant entering without warning, leading to a mortifying explanation involving new theories of health. And please never mention this to anyone. Outside, a carriage rattles down the cobblestone lane, momentarily drowning out your internal monologue. The horse pulling it snorts loudly, as if judging your wellness routine from afar. You pull your shoulders back and try to appear confident in your nudity, just in case any animals are observing. After several minutes, your skin has achieved the pleasant shade of someone who has been lightly refrigerated. Your fingers have gone numb. Your teeth are considering chattering. You decide this is enough wellness for one lifetime. You shut the window with a decisive thud, immediately relishing the slightly warmer, moderately less humiliating atmosphere of your bedroom. You wrap yourself in a robe with the urgent enthusiasm of a man rescued from shipwreck. Warmth returns to your body like a forgotten friend. As you sit and reflect on your experiment, you acknowledge that the fresh air did wake you up. It also nearly killed you. But minor details aside, you can see why the fad exists. There is something invigorating, if slightly traumatic, about placing yourself at the mercy of the morning breeze. Still, you decide this will not become a daily habit. You prefer your wellness trends to involve clothing and predictable temperatures, and possibly tea. Your body, freshly invigorated and deeply confused, thanks you. Your collars are stiffened with starch so strong it could hold up a small bridge. You smell faintly of wet paste all day, and the edges dig into your neck like a polite guillotine. Starch, in the Regency era, is not merely a laundry additive. It is a belief system, a philosophy, a structural engineering marvel disguised as fabric care. Your maid prepares the starch early in the morning an unholy mixture of flour, water, and persistence, boiled until it reaches the consistency of regret. She dips your collars, cuffs, and cravats into it the way an artist dips brushes into paint, except her masterpiece's stiffness, and the medium is your discomfort. Once the garments are sufficiently coated, they are laid out to dry, slowly hardening into crisp, unyielding shapes, more closely related to architectural beams than clothing. When your maid retrieves them, she handles them carefully, as though carrying fine china or a dangerous animal. She presses each piece with a hot iron until the fabric no longer bends, flexes, or acknowledges the laws of softness. Wearing the final product is an experience. You slide into your shirt and immediately feel the presence of the collar, solid, authoritative, and with the emotional energy of someone judging you for slouching. It stands perfectly upright around your neck, refusing to relax, much like your posture for the remainder of the day. The edges dig into your skin gently but insistently, like a tiny reminder that beauty is pain and formality is slowly choking you. The cravat is even more ambitious. You fold it, wrap it, tie it, and then admire the way it sits on your chest with the stiffness of a moral principle. Regency society insists that a well-starched cravat speaks of discipline, refinement, and a total disregard for cervical comfort. The fabric presses against your windpipe just enough to remind you that breathing should be taken seriously. And then there's the smell. Starch has its own fragrance, a damp, flowery scent that lingers like a clingy relative. It wafts upward every time you shift, mingling with your perfume, your natural musk, and the faint aroma of yesterday's errands. You walk through the house, leaving a trail of scent that suggests you've recently rolled through a bakery and survived. As you move, your clothing makes small, crisp noises, tiny crackles of protest whenever you bend too far or attempt any gesture requiring flexibility. Sitting becomes a strategic negotiation. Turning your head is a diplomatic exercise. Bowing is possible only if you accept that your collar may attempt to soar through your jugular, but stiffness has its advantages. For one, you look impeccable. Your silhouette is sharp, elegant, and unmistakably upper class, even if you smell like paste, even if your neck is staging a rebellion, even if the cravat feels like a stern tutor correcting your posture. Appearances matter in Regency England, and starch is the difference between respectable member of society and possibly just rolled out of bed like an unmannered woodland creature. Throughout the day, you watch others navigate their own starched prisons. Gentlemen tilt their heads with the limited range of motion of elaborately dressed turtles. Ladies adjust their gowns, dealing with bodices stiffened to the tensile strength of small shields. Everyone tries to pretend they are comfortable. No one succeeds. By afternoon, the starch begins to soften just enough that your collar no longer threatens to draw blood. You feel a sense of triumph, as though you've personally defeated the garment through endurance. The cravat relaxes slightly, allowing you a full breath, a luxury you savour like dessert. But by evening, as you prepare to undress, the true joy arrives. You remove the collar, you unloop the cravat, you peel away the stiffness like shedding an exoskeleton. Suddenly your neck feels free, warm and shockingly mobile. You turn your head all the way to the left and nearly cry with relief. You inhale deeply and smell only yourself and not flower-based tyranny. And for a moment, all is right in the world. Tomorrow, of course, you will starch again, because fashion demands sacrifice. And in Regency England, starch is the altar. You wear gloves constantly to avoid showing your unwashed hands. Gloves are your privacy, your protection, and your plausible deniability. The moment you dress for the day, before you even think about jewellery or accessories, you reach for your gloves. They sit neatly on your vanity, small, elegant, and faintly smelling of leather, starch, and the faint desperation of someone who hasn't soaked their hands in warm water since the last major political crisis. In Regency England, gloves aren't fashion, they are survival. You slide your fingers in, evidence of yesterday's activities. Buried evidence of yesterday's activities. Buried beneath soft kid leather and polite society's unwillingness to ask questions. Gloves are the great equalizers. Whether you're impeccably groomed or quietly feral, once your hands are gloved, you become a mystery. Anyone who shakes your hand is unknowingly placing their trust in fabric rather than your actual cleanliness. And truly, that is for the best. Ladies wear gloves to promenade, to take tea, to attend balls, and to engage in any activity that requires appearing civilized. Gentlemen wear gloves as a form of armor against the world and against each other's questionable grooming habits. Gloves protect both the giver and the receiver of a handshake, acting as a thin barrier between you and whatever your conversational partner last touched. At a ball, the presence of gloves is mandatory. Imagine dancing with a stranger, hands intertwined, without gloves. Absolutely not. You would learn far too much about each other far too quickly. Gloves maintain emotional mystery and hygienic distance. They are the Regency cousin of wearing sunglasses indoors. But gloves do more than hide unwashed hands. They hide everything. They hide the fact that your nails haven't been trimmed in a fortnight. They hide the strange purple bruise you acquired bumping into a chair in the dark. They hide your true social origins, because nothing democratizes like a smooth glove. Anyone can look refined with a well-fitted pair. Of course, there is maintenance involved. Leather gloves must be stretched, softened, and occasionally rubbed with oils to prevent stiffness. Fabric gloves must be brushed clean and aired out, especially after encounters with humid rooms, warm weather, or emotionally stressful conversations. You ignore the suspicion that your gloves, having absorbed the sweat of your palms for months, are now sentient. You keep multiple pairs for different occasions, short gloves for day wear, elbow-length gloves for evening elegance, washable cotton gloves for travel, and one special pair reserved for church, funerals, and moments when you want others to believe you're holier than you actually are. There's also the ritual of glove etiquette. Removing your gloves signifies intimacy, or at least vulnerability. You might remove your right glove to dine, to sign a letter, or to slap someone in the face if challenging them to a duel. Removing both gloves means you trust the company, or you're extremely overheated. In Regency England, those two things often overlap. Despite their usefulness, gloves are not always comfortable. In summer, your hands stew inside them like Regency dumplings. In winter, your fingers freeze until you cannot tell whether you're wearing gloves or slowly turning into one. The fabric clings, pinches, rubs, and occasionally leaves faint impressions on your skin that resemble cryptic warnings from a glove-shaped spirit. Still, you endure. Because gloves protect your reputation, they allow you to present polished elegance while masking the fact that your last proper hand-washing was during the reign of a previous hairstyle. They offer plausible deniability. If anyone questions the cleanliness of your hands, you simply smile sweetly, flex your gloved fingers, and say, "Why, whatever do you mean?" And as you step out the door, gloves in place, you feel ready for anything. Conversations, dances, carriage rides, subtle judging of others, because your sins are hidden, your hands are safe, and your secrets remain securely tucked beneath soft fabric. In the Regency era, gloves aren't merely accessories, they are absolution. Socks weren't always washed, shoes rarely dried fully, and feet, well, you try to ignore yours. They smell like historical despair. Your feet are perhaps the most neglected part of your body. Small, innocent bystanders dragged through mud, dust, cobblestones, and every questionable puddle the 19th century has to offer. They deserve awards for endurance. Instead, they receive damp shoes, inconsistent socks, and your ongoing emotional denial. You peel off your stockings, which are clinging to your legs with the determination of a frightened barnacle. The moment the fabric loosens, a faint aroma rises into the air. You pretend not to notice. Everyone pretends. Regency society has mastered the art of ignoring foot smells the way modern people ignore their phone screen time reports. You glance at your feet, pale, slightly swollen, and bearing the imprint of your shoes like a topographical map. You wiggle the toes experimentally. They respond sluggishly, as though waking from a long nap in an uncomfortable position. One toe cracks ominously. Now comes the cleaning process. Foot washing is not a daily ritual. It is not even a weekly ritual. It occurs only when the situation becomes dire, when the smell becomes a character in its own right, or when a servant hints gently, "Perhaps, miss, a basin," in a tone that suggests she's ready to burn your shoes. You sit on a low stool while a maid fills a shallow basin with warm water. Warmish water. Tepid water. Water that feels the way disappointment tastes. Still, it's better than nothing. The moment your feet enter the basin, steam rises, not from heat, but from the dramatic release of foot tension accumulated over days of existence. Dirt clouds the water instantly. You look away. Your maid looks away. Everyone silently agrees not to acknowledge what the water now contains. You pick up a small bar of soap, rough and unscented, designed more for scouring pots than pampering feet. It scrapes gently across your skin, lifting grime that has been developing its own personality. The sensation is both soothing and humbling. You realize in this moment that your feet have done more travelling than your entire social circle. The nails need attention next. They are long, not dangerously so, but long enough that a Regency physician would call them vigorous, and a modern podiatrist would call them a cry for help. You trim them unevenly with small scissors that are absolutely not meant for this purpose. A nail flies unexpectedly across the room. You pray no one saw. Your heels are another matter. They are rough, cracked, and slightly alarming, like the surface of a dried riverbed. You rub them with a pumice stone, a terrifyingly porous object that looks like lava, but feels like redemption. Flakes come off. You pretend you don't see them. Once scrubbed, you lift your feet from the water. They look better. Pinker, less ashamed. They still smell faintly like medieval architecture, but progress is progress. Your maid dries them with a cloth, and you feel a warmth so sincere you briefly consider writing a sonnet about this moment of rebirth. Cleanish feet are a luxury, a miracle, a fleeting gift because you know the moment you put socks on again, the decline begins anew. Speaking of socks, yes, the cotton stockings you wore yesterday, and the day before, and possibly the day before that. Washing them requires effort, time, and emotional stamina you do not possess. You contemplate wearing them one more time. You choose the least rumpled pair, shake them lightly, and accept your fate. Then the shoes. Your shoes are leather, handsome, and deeply traumatized. They're always slightly damp, no matter how long they sit by the fire. They cling to moisture like a fond memory. The smell inside could be classified as a weapon. But you slide your feet in anyway, sighing softly as the warmth evaporates from your freshly cleaned toes. You stand. Your feet feel lighter, happier, more prepared for the journey ahead, across ballrooms, muddy paths, drawing rooms, and the emotional terrain of Regency society. Will they remain clean for long? No, not remotely. But for now your feet are soft, refreshed, and slightly less aromatic. A small Regency miracle. You embark on a journey. By the end, your face is coated in road dust. Your clothes smell of a horse, and your hair stands up from static so aggressively you could power a lamp. Travel sounds glamorous when you're planning it. A scenic ride through the countryside, gentle breezes, rolling hills, fresh air. But within the first 20 minutes, you learn the truth. Looks elegant from the outside. Polished looks elegant from the outside. Polished wood, shiny brass, stylish wheels. But inside it is a padded confinement chamber that rocks, jolts, shakes and rattles with all the grace of a malfunctioning carnival ride. You sit down, immediately sliding 6 inches because the seat cushion has ambitions of its own. You adjust, you wobble, you try to look dignified. It is impossible. Then the horses start moving. Roads in this era are not roads so much as dirt with confidence. Every bump launches you several inches into the air. Every rut jars your spine. Every stone sends a shockwave through the carriage that makes you question whether bones are truly necessary. Dust is your constant travelling companion. It sneaks in through tiny cracks in the carriage walls. It sweeps up from the wheels. It falls from the sky with an enthusiasm that suggests a personal grudge. By the halfway point, your face is no longer recognisable. You resemble an unfinished statue. A soft, powdery film coats your cheeks, your lashes, your lips, everything. You lick your mouth and taste road. Your clothes suffer their own tragedies. The scent of horse permeates everything, drifting in with such determination that you begin to suspect the odors hired legal counsel to become a permanent resident. The combination of sweat, leather, hay, dust, and the faint perfume you applied earlier produces a scent profile best described as barnyard debutante. And then there's your hair. Ah, your poor hair. Between the wind sneaking in through the windows, the static from your bonnet ribbon, and the jostling of the carriage, your hairstyle undergoes a transformation. What began as an elegant updo is now an electrified halo capable of influencing weather patterns. You catch your reflection in the carriage's small glass panel and gasp. You look like you've been struck by enlightenment and lightning simultaneously. But the journey isn't finished. At some point you disembark to stretch your legs, which respond by wobbling like warm jelly. You take a few steps, adjusting to non-moving ground, and immediately sink your shoe into a patch of mud with the texture of emotional defeat. The mud splashes your hem, coating it with a stain that will never fully come out, no matter how much your maid threatens it. Climbing back into the carriage, you try to brush the dirt away only to smear it further. You now look like an explorer returning from a dangerous expedition, or a chimney sweep auditioning for a dramatic role. The inside of the carriage grows progressively warmer as the journey continues. The air thickens, the windows fog. You begin to understand why Regency travellers faint so often. It's not the corsets. It's the collective humidity of shared suffering. By the time you reach your destination, you are a changed person. Literally. You step out of the carriage with the grace of a weary soldier. Your clothes cling unpleasantly. Your hair defies gravity. Your shoes produce sounds that indicate internal swamp conditions. A passing servant takes your cloak and tries, valiantly, to hide their expression of concern. You attempt to smooth your appearance, dabbing your face with a cloth that immediately turns from white to grey. You pat your hair, which crackles with static like a warning signal. You inhale deeply and smell everything that has happened to you. But you smile anyway because this is Regency England, and travel, messy, dusty, sweaty, humbling travel, is the price of seeing the world. Or at least the price of going to visit your aunt 2 towns over. You attempt to flirt despite smelling like lavender, sweat and carriage exhaust. Somehow it works. Regency standards are mercifully low. Courtship in the Regency era is already an intricate dance of glances, manners and familial expectations. But add in the fact that everyone smells faintly lived in, and the whole process becomes a delicate balancing act of charm and olfactory diplomacy. You arrive at a gathering, perhaps a garden stroll, perhaps a small assembly, where potential suitors mingle beneath lanterns or cloudy skies. You take a breath, preparing to appear sociable, and immediately regret it. The scent that escapes your lungs is a complicated blend of rosewater, perspiration, and the lingering memory of horse travel. If your personal aroma were a wine, a sommelier would call it ambitiously rustic. Still, no one recoils. Why? Because your suitors smell the same. Everyone here is wandering through the party exuding a unique but equally concerning perfume. A gentleman approaches you, bowing gracefully, his own scent carrying traces of starch, pomade, and a morning spent near a stable. You smile. The playing field is beautifully level. You exchange pleasantries. He asks about your journey. You ask about his health. The air between you is thick with mutual hope and mixed deodorant alternatives. But in the Regency world, courtship is not about smelling good. It's about pretending you don't notice anything unpleasant happening around you. You walk together through the garden paths, each of you secretly adjusting the distance between your bodies to manage airflow and expectations. You subtly angle your fan to redirect your own scent away from him. He pretends to admire a rosebush for an extra second to let a heavy gust of wind pass by. This is chemistry, literally. As you stroll, he offers his arm. You hesitate briefly, not out of modesty, but out of fear that your sleeve may currently be holding onto the scent of last night's dinner. But you accept, fingertips lightly resting on his coat. You notice his cravat smells powerfully of bergamot and ambition, likely an attempt to mask deeper odors lurking beneath. Conversation flows surprisingly well. Regency flirting is witty, strategic, and layered with subtext. Do you enjoy dancing? You, only with partners who know how not to step on my gown. Subtext, you can smell me, please pretend you can smell me, please pretend you can't. Your chemistry builds, not the aromatic kind, the emotional kind. He laughs at your comments, you laugh at his. The two of you share a moment of eye contact that nearly feels modern, except the background features several couples politely pretending not to smell each other. Soon, a dance begins. The room warms, the candles heat the air. Bodies move in swirling patterns. Perfume molecules wage their tiny wars in the atmosphere. Everything intensifies. You're now fully glistening, which is Regency for sweating gently, but pretending it's elegance. Your partner holds your hand. His gloves are damp, your gloves are damp. Together, your hands create a union of moist civility. You both continue smiling. During the turn of the dance, you dance wonderfully. In a tone you dance wonderfully. In a tone suggesting he has either not noticed or considers your scent an acceptable condition of human existence. The dance ends. You part with lingering glances. Somehow, unbelievably, astonishingly, you've flirted successfully. Because in the Regency era, love is not built on hygiene, it is built on endurance, on shared suffering, on the unspoken understanding that everyone is doing their best in a world without modern plumbing. He didn't flinch when you approached, you didn't faint when he bowed, and that truly is romance. Hours of dancing in candlelit heat with no ventilation means the ballroom soon resembles a scented sauna where hope and linen go to die. You step into the ballroom and immediately feel the temperature rise, as if the room has been preheated for emotional roasting. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of bodies fill the gleaming space, all dressed in their finest silks, satins and illusions. Beautiful illusions. Illusions that whisper, we are fresh, clean, elegant creatures, even though everyone knows the truth. Within minutes, every person here will be sweating like a nervous but determined horse. The heat comes from everywhere, from the wax candles lining every wall, from the massive chandelier overhead, dripping tiny molten warnings, from the packed crowd of people whose paws are working overtime to cope with the pressure of social expectations and exertion. and from the musicians who play with the energy of men hoping not to be fired, faint, or spontaneously combust. You take your place among the dancers. A gentleman approaches. He bows, looking crisp and composed, though the faint glisten along his hairline betrays him. You curtsy, praying your gown's multiple layers don't trap enough heat to cook you alive. The music begins. Within 30 seconds, the dancing turns the room into a human convection oven. Airflow is a myth. Ventilation is a rumour spread by optimists. The only breeze you feel is when your dance partner spins you hard enough to challenge your understanding of physics. You move through the steps, every motion bringing new sensory revelations. Your silk gown clings to your back, then billows, then clings again, deciding on a rhythm of suffering all its own. Your gloves grow steadily damp, not politely damp, but aggressively damp, as though competing with your partner's gloves for moisture supremacy. Your stays compress your torso until your ribs begin filing emotional complaints, and everywhere you turn, the smell evolves. At first it's floral, rose attar, citrus cologne, lavender water, but as bodies heat, the fragrance shifts into something far more powerful. A scent plume rises from the crowd like battlefield smoke, thick with the combined efforts of exhausted deodorant strategies. There is a moment, experienced by all Regency dancers, when you inhale deeply and instantly regret every life choice that led you here. Still, the dancing continues. Couples twirl past you, their faces flushed, their expressions hovering between joy and survival instinct. Sweat glistens on temples, silk darkens at the seams, petticoats become personal saunas. A lady nearby fans herself so vigorously that she practically takes flight. A gentleman uses his cravat to dab his forehead, the once crisp folds wilting like disappointed pastry. The violinist on stage wipes his brow with a handkerchief, which is now working far beyond its job description. And yet, everyone is smiling. Everyone is pretending this is glamorous. This is Regency fun. This is how love blossoms, in a cloud of humidity and mild heat stroke. Between dances, you retreat to the side of the room, gasping slightly for air. Your lungs crave a breeze, a window, a small crack in reality through which fresh air might enter. But the windows are closed tight, both to keep out the night chill and to trap every aroma generated inside, ensuring it may never escape. You press one hand to your cheek. It's warm enough to fry something lightly. You look at your reflection in a nearby mirror. You appear radiant, mostly because your skin is on the verge of liquefying. Your partner returns for the next dance. You smile because manners. He smiles because survival requires optimism. You take his hand again, and together you plunge back into the aromatic battlefield. By the time the final dance ends, you feel as though you've completed a triathlon in formal wear. Your hair droops, your gown sighs, your gloves could be wrung out into a small pond. But as you leave the ballroom, and somehow, against all odds, you still look elegant. You treat yourself to a spa day, a gentle vinegar wipe, maybe some herbal steam inhalation, and a tonic that tastes like soaked pennies. In Regency England, pampering yourself does not mean candles, warm towels, or relaxing music. It means voluntarily submitting to mildly unpleasant treatments because someone's aunt once claimed they stimulated the constitution. And despite every warning sign, you find yourself believing it. Your spa day begins with vinegar, not the pleasant kind. Not balsamic, not apple cider. No, this is sharp, medicinal vinegar with a scent so assertive it could strip wallpaper. Your maid pours a small amount into a bowl, dilutes it with water, and hands you a cloth that has definitely seen better decades. Refreshing, she says unconvincingly. You dab your face, flinching as the liquid touches your skin. It tingles, it stings, It makes your eyes water in a way that suggests emotional vulnerability, even though this is purely chemical warfare. Still, you persist, because the goal here is glow, and if your face must be pickled to achieve it, so be it. Next comes the herbal steam. A pot of boiling water is placed on the table, filled with dried herbs that smell somewhere between a pleasant meadow and a damp cupboard. You lean over it and place a towel over your head to trap the steam. Instantly, your world becomes a fragrant sauna of regret. The steam fogs your vision, softens your hair into limp strands, and opens your pores so aggressively that even your pores are asking for space. You inhale deeply. The herbs, rosemary, mint, chamomile, swirl around your senses, creating the illusion that something healthy is occurring, even though you know you're basically boiling your face. After several minutes, you emerge from the towel, flushed and dripping like a plate dumpling. Your skin does look smoother, although that may simply be the redness masking everything else. Now comes the tonic. Your maid brings a bottle filled with a murky liquid the colour of sadness. The recipe allegedly comes from a famous doctor, who likely invented it during a bout of personal crisis. You take a cautious sip. It tastes like iron and disappointment, and the faint memory of old copper coins. You swallow anyway, because you've committed to the bit. The tonic promises to improve circulation, brighten the eyes, and remove internal stagnation, none of which are defined clearly enough to question. You take another sip. Your tongue goes temporarily numb. This is probably normal. Then, feeling bold or delirious, you attempt the full spa ritual, a vinegar rub-down. Yes, entirely vinegar. You remove your gown, stand in your chemise, and allow your maid to apply diluted vinegar across your arms, legs, and back. The scent that fills the air can only be described as haunting. You resemble a salad, a radiant Regency salad. The vinegar cools your skin but leaves behind a sharp aroma that will follow you for hours, possibly days. You remind yourself that ancient Romans did this too, though history rarely mentions how they smelled afterward. Once the rub-down is complete, you wrap yourself in a robe and recline in a chair, basking in the illusion of luxury. Yes, you're slightly damp. Yes, you smell like a pickle jar. But your skin feels tingly, and your mind feels calmish. Your maid brushes your hair with long strokes, letting it air dry into soft waves. You sip tea to rinse the taste of metallic tonic from your mouth. You even nibble a biscuit, partly because you're proud of surviving, partly to disguise the lingering flavour of coins. Finally, you examine yourself in the mirror. Your cheeks are flushed, your eyes are bright. Your skin looks smoother, though that might be the vinegar still working through its emotional journey. You smell like an herb garden undergoing an identity crisis, but overall, you feel renewed. And in the Regency world, that counts as a perfect spa day. Behind every clean aristocrat is a servant who washed the linens, boiled the water, brushed the coats, and quietly judged the smell. You awaken each day believing for a fleeting moment that you are a self-sufficient Regency individual. You stretch, you rise from your bed, you examine your reflection, and then the truth returns. Absolutely none of your apparent cleanliness has anything to do with you. Your entire reputation is upheld by exhausted, underpaid human beings who work tirelessly so you may smell acceptable instead of concerning. Your maid is the first of these heroes, appearing each morning with an expression best described as professionally resigned. She gathers your linens, sheets, chemise, stockings, and carries them off to be washed, not delicately washed, not fragrantly washed, boiled, scoured, scrubbed with a forceful energy that suggests she is not scrubbing the fabric, but scrubbing her feelings about your laundry schedule. Then there is the water, your bath water, your wash basin water, your tea water, None of it arrives magically. Servants are hauling bucket after bucket up narrow staircases, their arms trembling, their spirits held together by muscle memory and mild resentment. Each bucket weighs approximately as much as a healthy toddler, and yet they smile politely when they deliver it to your room, as though it's light as mist, and they haven't already made 10 trips before breakfast. Your coats and gowns, you may think they retain their elegance effortlessly. They do not. A servant has brushed every fibre, removing dust, hair, crumbs, pollen, and occasionally something unidentifiable. They use special tools, flicking and sweeping with rhythmic precision, almost musical, because if they stop even for a moment, your clothing will revert instantly to rural scarecrow. When you return from a dance or carriage ride, swirling with sweat, perfume, despair, and road dust, you delicately drape your clothes over a chair and go to sleep. Your servants, meanwhile, wage war against fabric that now smells like equal parts candle heat, mutton fumes, and ballroom humidity. Servants also manage your shoes, which require scraping, airing, buffing, softening, and periodic spiritual cleansing. Regency shoes absorb everything: mud, manure, spilled tea, existential dread. A servant scrapes them clean with a small knife, brushes them, buffs them, and places them by the fire so they will be warm for you the next morning. If shoes could talk, they would file workplace harassment complaints. Then there's the chamber pot. You pretend it isn't there, but your servants cannot pretend. They must lift it, carry it out, empty it, scrub it, return it, and do all of this without flinching visibly. Their sense of smell has ascended to another plane of existence, where survival depends on strict emotional detachment. But the greatest miracle of all is that your servants endure the smells you, yourself, create. Your perfume cloud, your vinegar rub-downs, your recently aired gown that smells like weather and ambition, your feet, which have walked through everything England has to offer, your breath, seasoned generously with onions and dental theory. Servants endure these sensory experiences with professionalism. They time their breaths. They open discreet windows. They swallow their opinions the way you swallow questionable tonics. They offer you compliments that may or may not be sincere, such as "You look very fresh today, miss," which you now understand is servant code for "the situation is stable enough." And yet, beneath all of this labour, judgment, and emotional stamina, prepare your bath because you would perish. They keep your garments intact because fabric is expensive. Servants keep you presentable because your reputation matters. There is genuine care. Prepare your bath because you would perish attempting it alone. They straighten your hair, lace your stays, fasten your gloves, and ensure you do not walk into society looking like the unwashed cryptid you would be without them. Every moment of cleanliness you experience, not fragrant cleanliness, but Regency cleanliness, is the result of their unseen work. So yes, you may glide through the drawing room looking polished, perfumed, and put together, but behind you is an army of tired heroes who deserve more credit than history ever gave them. Before bed, you remove your outerwear, splash your face again, and pray the sheets haven't developed a new ecosystem during the day. Nighttime in the Regency era is not a luxurious candlelit spa routine. It is a negotiation, a delicate truce between your body, your environment, and the increasingly judgmental softness of your mattress. You begin by peeling off your outer layers one by one, like a historical onion with secrets. Gown, petticoats, stays, stockings, all shed with the gentle resignation of someone who has accepted that nothing they wore today is truly clean, only less dirty. Your chemise remains, your faithful linen companion that has now taken on the emotional burden of the entire day. It smells faintly of sweat, starch, and stress. But compared to everything else, it is practically a floral delight. You approach your washstand again, lifting the basin with a familiar blend of hope and suspicion. The water inside is cold, naturally. Water in this century cools faster than your enthusiasm. You dip your fingers in, splash your face, and feel immediate regret. The shock wakes you up more than it soothes you, which is counterproductive to the goal of sleep. But here we are. You pat your face dry with a cloth that has never, in the history of its existence, been fully dry. It smells faintly of lavender and faintly of yesterday. You accept this and move on. Now comes the most anxious step of the night, turning down the bed. Regency beds are deep, soft, and disturbingly warm, not because of insulation, but because of the number of hours you've been lying in them, breathing and sweating. You lift the covers gingerly, half expecting something to scurry, sprout, or wave hello. You inspect the linens. Are they clean? No. Have they at least maintained the same level of uncleanliness since morning? Possibly. This is the best outcome you can hope for. You slide into the sheets with caution. The bedding envelops you, warm, musky, familiar, and definitely storing at least 5 memories of the past week. But the pillows are soft, the blankets heavy, and the overall sensation comforting, if you don't think too hard about hygiene. You blow out the candle. Darkness settles instantly, thick and quiet. Thick, except for the faint creaks of your house settling in the night, and the even fainter creak of your conscience whispering, "You should have washed your feet again." But it's too late. You're horizontal. As your breathing slows, you take stock of your nightly cleanliness scorecard. Hands, moderately clean, assuming gloves protected them from the world today. Face, splashed with cold water, mostly awake, slightly offended. Body, untouched since morning washing, a gamble. Hair, pinned, powdered, and radiating the scent of desperation. Feet, no comment. You turn onto your side, snuggling deeper into the blankets. The warmth is soothing, the scent is familiar, a mixture of linen, your own personal aroma, and something faintly botanical, perhaps from the lavender sachet tucked under your pillow. It masks just enough of everything else. As you begin to drift, the sounds of Regency nighttime fill your room. A horse clops down the street. A servant walks quietly in the hallway below. The wind rattles the window latch. Your mattress sighs beneath you, releasing a small puff of air that smells like 3 a.m. thoughts and ancient stuffing. You close your eyes and try to relax, ignoring the fact that the sheets haven't been washed since a political scandal 3 weeks ago. You tuck your cold toes under the blanket. You shift your head into a more comfortable dent in the pillow. Your mind drifts. You're not clean, not truly. But you are clean enough for Regency England, which is a significantly lower bar and a far more forgiving standard. Tomorrow you will repeat your freshening rituals, splash your face, brush your hair cloud, perfume strategically, and pretend, along with everyone else, that personal hygiene is thriving in this era. But for now, wrapped in warmth and resigned acceptance, you drift peacefully into sleep. Because at the end of the day, minimal hygiene is still hygiene. And in the Regency world, that's victory. You wake up sweating because your bedroom temperature ricochets between freezing and boiling. You roll over and pretend not to notice the dampness. This is the nightly war your body fights against a climate that refuses to choose a side. When you first fell asleep, the room was cold enough that you could see your breath. So you piled on blankets, one wool, one quilt, one that feels like it was made by someone who hates softness, and burrowed into them like a Regency hibernation ritual. But sometime after midnight, your fireplace, which had been fading into chilly indifference, suddenly decided to reignite its last embers into a burst of enthusiasm. Now the room feels like a personal sauna powered by poorly regulated coal and bad decisions. You kick a leg out from under the covers, attempting to regulate your temperature like a Regency lizard seeking a balanced sunspot. It doesn't work. Your body continues to perspire, with the determination of someone trying to rid themselves of every emotion they experienced that day. You flip your pillow. It is damp on both sides. It's unclear whether this moisture came from you, the humidity in the air, or the lingering presence of the last 30 nights of sleep. You decide it's better not to investigate. Your chemise, the same faithful garment that endured your day's sweat, stress, and questionable decisions, now clings to your back. Linen, renowned for its breathability, is suddenly breathless. It sticks to you like a desperate admirer refusing to let go. You peel it away slightly, only for it to reattach itself with renewed commitment the moment you shift. You sit up for a moment, fanning the blankets to circulate air. A faint coolness brushes your skin, giving you a glimpse of relief. Then your window rattles, a gust of cold creeping in like a ghost of winter. Too cold. Far too cold. You immediately retreat beneath the covers, returning to your steamy cocoon. This is the dance. Sweat, shiver, a constant back and forth that your body neither requested nor agreed to. You consider opening the window, but you know exactly what will happen. The cold will flood in aggressively, settling into your bones. Your nose will freeze. Your feet, already confused, will enter a deeper state of despair. And by the time you warm up again, your sheets will be damp from both condensation and your personal contributions. So you close your eyes and accept your fate. Your mind wanders briefly, wondering how everyone in Regency England survived these nocturnal climate battles. The answer is simple. They didn't complain about them out loud. They kept stiff upper lips while their bodies produced enough night sweats to irrigate a small garden. Romance novels never mention the damp patches, the sticky sheets, the clammy limbs, the middle-of-the-night realization that you are simultaneously freezing and roasting. You roll over again, encountering the cold side of the bed, which is only cold because your sweat hasn't reached that section yet. You sprawl across it like a starfish in search of emotional stability. It helps for approximately 12 seconds. Finally, your body begins to settle. The temperature levels out for reasons unknown. Perhaps the fire has finally given up. Perhaps your blankets have reabsorbed the heat. Perhaps the universe has decided to be merciful. You aren't sure. You only know your sweat is drying now, leaving a faint chill across your skin that you choose to interpret as refreshing rather than miserable. You nestle back into your pillow, ignoring the damp imprint of your head. You tug the blanket up to your chin. The room grows quiet except for your steady breathing, the occasional pop from the dying fire, and the distant clip-clop of a midnight carriage passing on the street outside. You're still slightly sweaty. Your sheets are still questionably moist. Your chemise is holding onto your torso like a damp, affectionate octopus. But somehow you're comfortable enough. Your eyelids grow heavy. Your limbs relax. You drift back into sleep, resigned to the reality that this will all happen again tomorrow, because Regency bedrooms operate under the guiding principle of temperature chaos. And in the end, you accept it, because sweating is inevitable. But sleep, sweet, unpredictable, slightly damp sleep, is eternal. You rise with the sun, stretch, smell yourself, shrug, and begin another beautifully scented Regency day, where everyone looks perfect and smells like a floral candle fighting for its life. The sun creeps in through the thin, slightly warped window glass, shifts slightly. The sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets. The sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets. The sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets. The sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets. The sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets. The sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets. The sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets. The sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets. The sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets hold last. You feel the warmth of the sheets shift slightly. The sheets hold last night's history. Your chemise clings. Your pillow bears your silhouette like a damp emotional confession. You inhale gently, very gently, and catch a whiff of something floral, something human, something ambiguous, something distinctly Tuesday morning in 1811. You exhale quickly, deciding that it's too early to challenge your senses with existential questions. And so, like generations before you, you do the Regency shrug. This is the shrug that says, "Ah, yes, this is my natural musk now." A shrug that contains acceptance, resilience, and the mild resignation of someone living in an age where soap is optional and optimism is mandatory. You swing your legs over the bed, immediately shivering as your feet hit the cold floor. The planks greet you with a familiar icy kiss, the traditional sensation that confirms you are indeed alive. You rub your arms, stand, and try to make peace with your own aroma. Today it smells like sleep, linen, and a lingering hint of yesterday's rosewater perfume that now resembles rosewater's mysterious cousin. You glance in the mirror. Your hair has transformed overnight into a work of abstract art, voluminous, rebellious, giving cloud energy but with sharper opinions. Your face glows with the sheen of night sweats, plus a faint imprint from your pillow that may or may not fade before breakfast. This is fine. This is the standard. You reach for your wash basin, lifting the same porcelain bowl that has seen more of your life than any diary could ever record. You splash your face again, cold water this time because the fire did not survive the night and neither did your patience. The sensation wakes your soul with a brisk slap. You dab your underarms with a damp cloth, doing just enough to reset your scent profile from nighttime despair to daytime possibility. You dress in the relative privacy of your room, layering linen upon linen, building the day's ensemble like a fabric-based defense system. Your chemise absorbs, your corset restrains, your gown conceals. You smooth the wrinkles that refuse to smooth. You tighten the ribbons that refuse to cooperate. You give yourself a quick spritz of perfume, creating a heroic floral barrier between you and the public. Then comes the moment of evaluating your overall smell. You lift an arm, tilt, sniff, pause. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's Regency. You shrug again, rebooting your expectations for the day. Downstairs, servants are already at work boiling laundry water, brushing coats, lighting fires, and quietly judging all of you. You offer a polite good morning, and they respond with an expression that says, "We are professionals, and we'll pretend not to smell whatever you smell like." You enter the breakfast room where everyone else is also pretending to be fresh. Your mother's perfume battles with your father's cologne. Your siblings smell like bed linens and ambition. Even the family dog has joined the grand melee of aromas. And somehow, miraculously, the entire tableau looks elegant. Because that's the Regency secret. You don't need to smell perfect. You only need to look like you tried. A powdered curl, a smoothed ribbon, a faint spritz of violet water, all enough to create the illusion of refinement. As you sit sipping your tea and nibbling your toast, your body slowly warms. Your perfume begins to compete with your mutton memories and the cycle resets. A new day begins, filled with mild uncleanliness, filled with effort disguised as ease, filled with beauty held together by pins, starch, sweat, and denial. And you rise to meet it, perfect, polished, and smelling like a floral candle that absolutely will not give up. You approach a bar of Regency soap with the same caution you'd give a wild animal. Soap is expensive, rarely scented, and often made from ingredients that smell faintly like old candles and regret. Using it too much dries your skin into parchment. Using it too little well, you already know how that goes. So you lather gently, nervously, praying the soap doesn't crumble or stain your wash basin. You turn the bar over in your hand like an artifact recovered from a forbidden excavation. It's small, uneven, and slightly tacky, less a luxurious bath product, and more a compressed cube of historical compromise. Soap, in the Regency era, is a gamble. It can leave you clean, yes, but also dry, itchy, and smelling vaguely of tallow, like a candle that has recently lost its will to live. This particular bar was handmade, probably by someone's aunt who has strong opinions about lye. You're not entirely convinced it won't remove one or more layers of your skin. Still, today feels like a soap day, a rare event, practically a holiday. You splash a bit of water into your basin, watching the surface ripple with reluctance. The water temperature is neither warm nor cold, but exists in that uncanny lukewarm realm that feels like it cannot be trusted. You wet the soap and begin rubbing it between your palms. It doesn't lather, it resists. It produces the smallest suggestion of bubbles, like it's trying to remember how soap is supposed to behave but isn't fully committed. You rub harder. A few suds appear, tiny, fragile things that seem moments away from giving up entirely. You apply the suds to your arms, rubbing in circles the way you once saw your maid do with far more competence. The soap drags across your skin with the grace of dry chalk. It leaves behind a faint residue that smells like a mixture of boiled fat and lost ambition. You rinse quickly, afraid to anger it. The water running off your skin is cloudy now. Cloudy in a way that reveals more about your hygiene than you care to think about. You tell yourself the soap is doing its job. You tell yourself the faint sting is cleansing. You tell yourself the dryness forming on your elbows is temporary, not a sign that your skin is transitioning into dried parchment. Next, you attempt to wash your neck, an innocent enough gesture in theory. In practice, the soap immediately slips from your grasp, shooting into the basin with a violent splash. It floats there accusingly. You retrieve it, muttering apologies as though the soap has feelings, which, in your defence, it might. Soap is notoriously moody. It melts unpredictably, crumbles without warning, and disappears mysteriously when guests visit. Entire households spend hours searching for bars that have slid under washstands like guilty fugitives. You move to your hands safer territory. The soap works better here, forming what could be called a lather if you're feeling optimistic. You clean between your fingers, marvelling at how rare this sensation is. The air fills with a faintly waxy aroma. Not pleasant, not unpleasant, simply existent. But as you rinse and examine your hands, something miraculous happens. They look cleaner, fresher, marginally more human. The soap did not betray you after all. Encouraged, you consider washing your feet. You reconsider immediately. Feet require emotional preparation. Instead, you place the soap gently onto a small dish and pat it dry with the reverence of someone preserving a sacred relic. You know it will vanish twice as fast if you leave it damp. Regency soap does not tolerate negligence. As you look at the bar, smaller than when you started, slightly misshapen, still smelling like a candle's burnt-out cousin, you feel proud. You used soap. Real soap. Not lemon slices, not vinegar, not brushing, beating, or prayer. Soap. Your skin tingles. It feels a little too tight, but also undeniably clean by 19th century standards, which is to say, you smell like someone who made an effort. And that is the highest compliment Regency Hygiene can offer. Tomorrow, you will likely revert to a quick splash of water and a dab of perfume. But today you battle the soap and live to tell the tale. You pull on a clean linen shirt, the Regency equivalent of a full reset button, and suddenly you look clean, even though nothing meaningful has changed. A clean shirt gives the illusion of hygiene so powerful it could fool your future in-laws, your neighbours, and even yourself if you don't sniff too deeply. It's the Regency version of spritzing Febreze on a couch that desperately needs therapy. The power of the clean shirt is unmatched. You could have spent the previous night sweating like a nervous diplomat, tossing and turning in sheets that saw more emotional turmoil than a 3-volume novel. Your hair may resemble a disappointed wig, your breath a mixture of tea and historical dentistry, your underarms a quiet cry for help. But the moment that crisp linen touches your torso, society forgives everything. The shirt is freshly laundered, meaning someone boiled it, beat it against a rock, scrubbed it until the fabric begged for mercy, and then hung it in the sun until it was stiff enough to double as light armour. Its whiteness is blinding. Its texture is scratchy but righteous. When you slip it over your head, it crackles faintly, as if announcing a new chapter of your life. Suddenly, you stand a little straighter. You look at yourself in the mirror and think, yes, I am presentable, I am refined, I am possibly even respectable. All lies, of course, but beautifully constructed ones. This is the genius of Regency fashion. It understands that people rarely question what lies beneath the surface, as long as the surface looks crisp. Your shirt is a social facade, a textile hallucination. It's not cleanliness, it's clean vibes. The moment you put it on, people react differently. Your maid gives a polite nod that suggests, yes, this will do. Your mother smiles, relieved you no longer resemble a cautionary tale. Even the dog pauses, from person who smells like morning into from person who smells like morning into person who has their life together, and Regency society supports this illusion wholeheartedly. No one expects a daily bath. No one demands you wash your hair more than twice per presidential administration. A clean shirt, however, is the gold standard. And of course, You pair it with the rest of your outfit, which has absolutely not been washed. Your coat still carries the scent of last night's candle smoke. Your waistcoat remembers the faint aroma of that onion-heavy supper. Your cravat has been retied so many times it has entered a state of existential crisis. And your breeches. Let's not discuss them in polite company. Yet no one notices, because the shirt shines like a beacon of fabricated purity. There is, however, a catch. The shirt may look divine, but underneath? Your armpits begin negotiating with the linen almost immediately. Within an hour, the shirt starts absorbing the day's reality, sweat, perfume, anxiety, and whatever breeze blew through your window. Linen is absorbent. Linen is honest. Linen keeps secrets for only so long. Still, you carry on. You stroll outside, nodding graciously at passers-by who have no idea that beneath this garment lies a body clinging to the last threads of personal freshness. You sit for tea, delicately lifting your cup so no one sees the faint yellowing already forming at your elbow crease. You chat with neighbours, feeling somewhat fraudulent but happy to participate in this common cultural deception. By midday, the shirt has begun softening, moulding to your shape like a warm hug or a silent indictment. The crispness fades, the illusion wavers, but the magic isn't gone. People still perceive you as clean because you began the day with the visual promise of hygiene. By evening, the shirt has absorbed enough experience to qualify as a memoir. It no longer sparkles. It smells faintly lived in. It betrays you slightly under candlelight, but still it carries the residual aura of cleanliness. You remove it tenderly, acknowledging its noble service. Tomorrow the cycle continues. One fresh shirt, one renewed illusion, one more day of tricking the world and yourself into believing everything is perfectly clean. Because in the Regency era, hygiene may be complicated, but a clean shirt is the closest thing to hope. You leave the house feeling freshish, only to step into the world of Regency transportation, where horses dominate the roads, the air, and your personal scent palette. A single carriage ride ensures you smell like mud, hay, leather, and atmospheric horse contributions. It's not optional. It's the Regency signature fragrance worn by all classes, whether they want to or not, are everywhere. Clopping down cobblestone are everywhere. Clopping down cobblestone streets with the confidence of animals who know humanity depends entirely on them for forward movement. They pull carriages, they carry riders, they loiter near taverns, and they redistribute their digestive output across every inch of public road with unbothered enthusiasm. Within 10 seconds of walking, your shoes have acquired a new personality. Mud splashes your hem, leaving behind dark marks that will later be blamed on road dust, which is Regency code for please don't ask. The air swirls with particles from hooves hitting the dirt, tiny flecks of mystery that land lightly on your cheeks, reminding you that cleanliness is a state of mind, not a physical reality. Then the carriage arrives. Your driver, cheerful and utterly nose-blind after years of exposure, helps you in. The carriage smells like leather, old upholstery, stale perfume, and something warm, something animal, something that belongs on 4 legs, not inside a vehicle. You sit gingerly, trying not to inhale too deeply. The ride begins with a lurch that sends you sliding across the cushioned seat like an elegantly dressed hockey puck. Your hair bounces, your stays tighten, and the air inside the carriage begins its slow transformation into a stale, horse-scent incubator. Out the window, the countryside is peaceful. Rolling hills, stone walls, chirping birds, but the serenity does nothing to improve the air quality inside. Each bump in the road kicks up another wave of earthy fragrance from the team pulling you along. You are, quite literally, marinating in the aroma of horsepower. If the weather is dry, dust fills the carriage like theatrical fog. If it rained recently, Mud splatters up the sides of the wheels and onto the undercarriage, bringing with it the unmistakable scent of wet horse. If the weather really misbehaves, the wind shifts, and suddenly you're downwind from a horse relieving itself, a deeply grounding experience. But the sensory assault isn't limited to smell. Your clothes absorb everything. Linen is porous. Wool clings. Silk, though luxurious, is nothing more than a scented sponge in disguise. By the time you arrive at your destination, you radiate an aroma that suggests you have spent the morning frolicking in a stable. Your gloves smell faintly of rains you didn't touch. Your hair has taken on a barnyard-adjacent perfume. Even your stockings hold a whisper of fresh country air, which in Regency terms means particles you don't want to think about. And yet everyone around you smells the same. At a social gathering, the entire room carries hints of the outdoors. Ladies lean in to speak and release the delicate bouquet of carriage ride plus rosewater. Gentlemen bow, their coats exhaling the faint aroma of horse sweat and masculine perseverance. Even the children smell faintly pastoral. It's oddly bonding. Horses flatten class boundaries in ways nothing else can. A duchess and a baker's daughter may live wildly different lives, but both smell vaguely equine after travelling into town. No amount of perfume can fully conceal this scent. It simply fights with it until surrendering gracefully. You try to freshen up, you brush off your gown, you pat your hair, you adjust your gloves. But the essence of horse remains. It clings to you tenderly, like a meadow saying, "We shared an experience." As the day continues, the scent fades only slightly. By evening you smell less like active barn and more like suggestion of barn, which is the closest thing to fragrance neutrality available in this century. And when you finally return home, peeling off your riding clothes, you catch one more whiff of hay, leather, and horsewind. You sigh. It is the smell of Regency England. And whether you like it or not, it is part of you now. When society calls, you must appear presentable, which in Regency terms means your face is washed, your teeth are mostly intact, and your clothes have been brushed within the last lunar cycle. You're expected to glide into parlours and tea rooms looking crisp and smelling faintly floral, despite knowing full well that underneath it all, your hygiene is holding on by a single embroidered thread. Regency society is a theatre stage, and you are one of the actors, expected to wander gracefully across drawing rooms, pretending the layers of powder, perfume, starch, vinegar, and denial constitute cleanliness. Presentation is everything. Reality, optional. Your preparations begin with the most crucial illusion of all, the freshly splashed face. Is it clean? Not entirely. But it looks alert. It feels cold, and that is enough. Next comes the careful brushing of your hair into a shape that whispers effort, even though you both know it hasn't seen actual soap since last quarter's comet sighting. Then you check your teeth. You smile in the mirror, hoping today is a good teeth day, meaning nothing looks too threatening. Regency dentistry is a complicated blend of ambition and tragedy. As long as your teeth remain inside your mouth and point in generally cooperative directions, society considers them a triumph. Your clothing, however, is the real battlefield. You brush away dust, lint, crumbs, and existential dread from your gown or coat. The garments themselves may not be technically clean, but they are tidy, which is close enough for social acceptance. As you fasten your buttons or tie your cravat, you whisper small prayers, not for perfection, but for stability. The moment you step outside, you transform from a frazzled human being into a presentable Regency person. Posture straight, chin forward, expression serene. Scent, ideally somewhere between floral breeze and light garden optimism. The reality beneath your clothes is known only to you. You know that one of your stockings definitely needs washing. You know your chemise is approaching its limit. You know your underarms are surviving on lemon slices, prayer, and the concept of dignity. But none of that matters, because society will judge only what it sees. And what it sees is a well-dressed individual who has mastered the art of pretending everything is fine. Upon entering a parlour, you must glide, never stomp, never shuffle, no matter how damp your shoes may be from weather or regret. You settle onto a chair with genteel poise, fully aware that the upholstery is about to become intimately acquainted with your slightly questionable freshness. Conversations flow, tea is poured, compliments are exchanged, social expectations swirl around you like a delicate perfume cloud. You look radiant today, someone says. What they mean is, your hair is not doing anything alarming. Your clothing does not appear to have been used as a blanket for a goat. Your general aroma is not aggressively historical, and truly that is the highest form of praise in this era. As you chat politely about weather, politics, or which cousin married which baronet, you become increasingly aware of how fragile your clean facade is. One sudden breeze could reveal the truth. One drop of sweat could lead to disaster. One too close embrace could expose the mild aroma of person who walked here. But everyone else is in the same situation. Social hygiene expectations are collectively upheld through communal lying. You pretend they smell fine. They pretend you smell fine. Everyone pretends your gloves are not hiding unwashed hands. This unspoken covenant is what keeps Regency society functioning. You sip your tea, maintaining your expression of effortless composure. The lemon slice floating in your cup mocks you, knowing it did more work on your armpits this morning than it will do here. By the time you leave the gathering, gliding once more as expected, you feel oddly triumphant. Not because you were truly clean, but because you were clean enough. Clean enough for society, clean enough for appearances, clean enough to maintain the delicate illusion that everyone, everywhere, always smells vaguely pleasant. In Regency England, that illusion is a work of art, and you are one of its master performers. Your doctor recommends practices that seem unrelated to cleanliness and distressingly related to suffering. He suggests bloodletting for skin problems, vinegar for infections, fresh air for everything else, and absolutely zero hand washing for anyone involved. Medical hygiene is, to put it politely, theoretical, and you quickly learn to trust your own instincts over any man waving a lancet with confidence and zero training. You sit in his dimly lit consulting room, which smells faintly of herbal tinctures, candle oil and fear. God help you, have definitely not touched God help you, have definitely not touched water since the last leap year. He examines you with great seriousness. You mention a rash, or perhaps a persistent cough, or an unfortunate blemish that has chosen to bloom on your cheek like a rebellious tulip. He nods gravely, stroking his chin the way wise men do in paintings. Then he announces his verdict with the confidence of a man who has memorized 4 Latin words and intends to use them all incorrectly. I believe, he says, your humours are imbalanced. Humours, always the humours. Too much yellow bile, not enough black bile, an overabundance of phlegm, a misbehaving spleen. Pick a fluid, any fluid. According to Regency medicine, your body operates like an unpredictable stew, and the doctor's job is to stir it aggressively until something improves or you lose consciousness. His first suggestion is usually bloodletting. Of course it is. You could complain of dandruff, heartbreak, or existential dread, and he would still recommend removing several ounces of your life force. He brandishes his lancet, a shiny, terrifying little blade, and smiles reassuringly, which somehow makes things worse. Just a small amount, he insists, as though the concept of small has ever comforted anyone about blood loss. You politely decline, clutching your sleeves as though he might attempt freestyle medical intervention. Next, he offers vinegar, not for cleaning, for everything else. Vinegar for infections, vinegar for fevers, vinegar for wounds, vinegar for spiritual malaise. Vinegar is his favourite child. He prescribes it with the enthusiasm of a man selling miracle cures at a travelling fair. You nod slowly, wondering whether you should drink it, bathe in it, or simply sit near it and hope for metaphysical improvement. He moves on to his next great conviction: fresh air. According to him, fresh air cures absolutely everything except maybe decapitation. Feeling faint. Fresh air. Feeling feverish. Fresh air. Feeling heartbroken, itchy, disoriented, or 6 minutes away from actual medical crisis. Fresh air. All problems can be solved by standing half naked next to a window while the wind delivers a message of icy clarity. Meanwhile, hand washing is completely absent from his worldview. Germs have not been invented yet, so cleanliness is optional, quaint even. He will touch your pulse after touching a doorknob, a candle stub, a horse, and possibly his lunch. He will press your forehead with fingers that contain entire archaeological layers of previous patients. You try not to think about it. You fail. Sometimes he suggests tonics, dark, mysterious liquids stored in bottles with labels like invigorating essence, general restorer, or probably not poison. These tonics taste like metal, dirt, and ambition. You drink one politely, instantly regretting every choice that led you here. And then there is the advice he gives that feels suspiciously improvised. You should avoid miasmas, eat more boiled things, don't let your emotions stagnate, consider less thinking, your spleen is too spirited. You smile, thank him for his time, and leave with the sinking certainty that if you want to live another week, you'll need to take charge of your own well-being. You rely on instinct, common sense, and the occasional whispered guidance of your housemaid who actually knows how to treat a cut. Medical hygiene, you conclude, is not a science. It is an elaborate guessing game played by men with sharp tools and overwhelming confidence. And somehow you survive it anyway. So tonight, as you settle into your clean sheets that thankfully have been washed sometime this century, take a soft breath and appreciate the miracle of modern hygiene. Hot water on demand, toothpaste that doesn't contain crushed bones, deodorant that actually works, and showers you don't have to announce to the household like a military operation. Because after spending a full Regency day trying to stay clean with nothing but vinegar, linen, and pure optimism, you've earned a moment of gratitude for the era you were lucky enough to be born into. Think of everything you've survived tonight. The cold basin splash, the tooth powder exfoliation disaster, the perfume cloud thick enough to stun a horse, the unspoken horror of ballroom sweat, and the relentless, ever-present scent of Regency musk, drifting gently through every room like a polite but persistent ghost. Yet through all of it, remember this. People back then were just doing their best. They were dancing, laughing, falling in love, writing letters, and somehow wooing each other despite the fact that no one had ever heard of antiperspirant. They were resilient, hopeful, wonderfully ridiculous, humans trying to be elegant while fighting a daily battle against their own biology. And honestly, they pulled it off, barely, but still. So as you tuck yourself in tonight with warm blankets, clean pajamas, and a fan humming softly in the background, maybe whisper a tiny thank you to the Regency world. Not because you'd want to live there, goodness no, but because it reminds us how far we've come, how lucky we are, how beautiful it is that human beings can persevere with nothing but courage, charm, and a bowl of lukewarm water. Let your eyes get heavy now. Let the images of candlelit ballrooms and over-perfumed parlours fade away. Let the quiet settle in around you like a soft shawl. You are safe, warm, clean, and cared for in ways no Regency aristocrat could ever imagine. And with that, rest deeply, breathe softly, and drift into sleep knowing that tomorrow holds no chamber pots, no vinegar rub-downs, and absolutely, blessedly, no cold baths. Good night, my friend.